Swami. And more importantly, I would really thank Professor Geeta and Pradeep, who actually worked very hard to make this work just before the Christmas. So before we start, I would like to introduce the word resilience and why this is so important in today's economy. And for the people who would like to stay towards the end, I would love to give them um, a live mentorship here from Silicon Valley. We will select top 10 students. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to have people who ask questions. So I would be asking either Geeta or Mr. Pradeep to keep track of the questions. And approximately after the talk, the people who ask questions would be enrolled into a live mentorship session. And this live mentorship session is primarily for people who want to advance their career or who just want a different direction for their new startup ideas or they want to enter in a corporate world. That would be a 30-minute mentor session. It will be awarded for 10 students. And it will be all determined by the quality of the question and the engagement in the next 30, 40 minutes. So that's a little bit brief bio about me. I'm on a mission, personal mission to actually impact billion entrepreneurs through business mentorship. I've done this over a few thousand times by now. And at this particular point, I'm a global venture mentor maker and a top industry analyst at LinkedIn. I'm also a startup judge at MIT, NASA, Google, Draper, Stanford, Berkeley. I actually also coach people at Angel Hack, a lot of incubators and accelerators in Silicon Valley, like 500 startups and YC, which is basically called Y Combinator, and also associated as an entrepreneur in residence as Plug and Play Silicon Valley, including the Global Citizen of New York. And I'm actually an advisor for IBM for the new entrepreneurship roles at blockchain. So that's a little bit about me. But let's go to the talk. So before we start, I would love to actually give you some highlight that what is resilience and how it differs from global resilience, as the topic is about global resilience. So just for all the students, you can ask any question at any given point of time, and let's make it more interactive. If we get more questions, Pradeep or Geeta would happy to interrupt me, and we can go live from there. So, in the simplest sense, resilience means one's ability to bounce back. To be a resilient person means to be able to withstand and adapt to hardships, including some traumas. So, basically, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulty is resilience. However, the global resilience is an ability of people, communities, countries, and systems to mitigate, recover, and thrive, learn in the face of shocks, thus reducing chronic vulnerability and enable sustained development. So, in simplest word, a resilience could be you and me or anybody who gone through a trauma can quickly recover. However, in global resilience, we need a lot of people. Basically, we need communities and countries and the systems which work with them to navigate and thrive. Somebody can mute the phone, please, if you don't mind. So I'm going to go back. Can you please mute yourself? So what we can do is I'm going to give you some examples of the worst epidemics and pandemics in last 500 years. So as you can imagine, that this is not the first pandemic we have seen. Of course, we have seen in our age group, but it's remarkably interesting to learn humanity response to these epidemics in last 500 years. And if you look at the common things is there is no early warning systems ever. It's not like I have any mechanism for early warning that something is coming. Economies did not invest much into health and research and development to develop medicine and vaccines. It has always been a last minute rush. So, a lot of people have to die, unfortunately, for
Uh,
the testing and vaccines, and tiny
Sir,
animals were targeted.
voice is not audible, sir.
Is it better? Hello? Can you hear
Sir,
me?
your voice is not audible, sir.
My voice is not audible at all.
No, sir, your voice is clear. You can please continue.
Okay, he says not. Okay, I'm
There
confused.
might
Okay,
be some
so
connectivity or
Sir, you're
network
not audible,
issues.
sir.
one lady says audible. You are saying not audible. Which one shall I work on,
No, sir, you're
ma'am?
audible.
You are audible, sir.
Okay, what's your name, ma'am?
Vanshita.
Okay, so can you? Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go. Let's go ahead. Uh, Please advise. Is everybody can hear, or is only one person cannot hear?
It's just some network connection or something like that with Pradeep sir's.
Okay, okay, fine. So we can move on, right? Okay. So even the polio so I'm going to continue the talk. So I was actually, so a lot of people have to die and test for vaccines. So basically, it means there is,
Sir, we are not audible, sir.
ma'am, can you
Pradeep,
please,
Pradeep,
Sir,
it is
you're not
audible.
audible, sir. Please
Pradeep,
check, sir. Any problem?
Pradeep, sir, it is audible, sir.
Win, sir.
yes, those people say they are audible.
Yes, sir. Now you're audible, sir. Please go ahead.
S- Okay, so even the polio vaccine was not funded by the government. If you look at how few countries transformed themselves from the first world nations despite of all these problems. So resilient economies are likely to have agile innovation systems, which basically promote new combinations of activities where organizations are willing to accept risk and where adaptability is built into the behavior. This means it was the adaptability 500 years ago and today. That is the most commonality we need to work on to adapt as we move forward. So, more choices are available when a shock hits. The greater the one choices will provide positive and effective route through the crisis. So, I'm going to go back and actually share with you the types of resilience. So, if you look at this chart, you can see physical, mental, emotional, social on the horizontal axis, and you can see daily problems, situational problems, and major problems on the y axis. So basically, being resilient as you face the press of life is a character trait that's often recommended. People who practice these behaviors regularly live longer than those who don't, and the nations with great resilience develop the ability to withstand any adversity and the nation could march towards progress despite uncertain environments. Therefore, it is important that we understand various types of resilience. For example, the physical resilience refers to our body capacity to arise from physical challenges and maintain stamina and recover effectively when damaged. And that's why if you look at a cut, I always give an example. If you have a little cut on the hand, the system of your body automatically has a capacity to heal. It takes longer without a medicine, but cells are so intelligent they come together. The second is called mental resilience, is all about thinking flexibly, being able to weigh your options, considering some alternatives, conceptualizing step by step means to reach a goal, understanding different perspectives and creativity problem solving. This means in this pandemic, we have to think about creative ways how to actually identify and solve the problem. Third one is emotional resilience. It's connected to emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, acceptance, and being positive. Emotional resilient people tend to accept adversities with flexibility and the attitude that times are tough, but they will get better. So, emotional resilience allows people to find positive things when circumstances are grim. And that will be the new, I would say, the skill or competency moving forward. So, all you guys who are graduating, if you check your EQ level before you apply the jobs, you will be very, very successful. Yes, IQ is important, but EQ is at a peak at this point. And the last but not the least is social resilience, which basically stems from connecting with others socially. It may include catching up a friend, working in a team, networking, or getting involved with your community. Social resilience is built on trust, diversity, tolerance, and respect. So the above type of resilience arises when we face major life problems, situational problems, or daily problems. So let me give you one example. Let's say a major life problem is what most people think. They think of resilience, like, passing away for a loved one is a major accident. Situational problems are not serious as major problems, but they can still cause considerably anxiety and can impact upon work relationships and the way people enjoy life. This may include working for an unpleasant boss, or online bullying, or temporary unemployment because of COVID. Daily problems are like many times a day. They can lead to negative attitude, the further problems if they're not handled well. Daily problems can include like traffic congestion, working with some kind of a not so cool colleague, or tight deadlines, or simply burning yourself while cooking like I do. I sometimes cook and I burn myself. Let us look few examples of applying major situational daily problems to physical, mental, emotional, and social resilience. For example, recovering from a spine injury and learning to walk again is the best example of physical resilience while dealing with major problem, which is spine injury. Staying strong while health problems leads to a hindrance of one's ability to learn and keep up with peers can be a best example to understand the mental resilience while dealing with a situational problem. Overcoming daily emotions through writing, singing, making art, or just taking a walk can help one to develop emotional resilience while dealing with daily issues that bother them. Last but not the least, societies and countries being socially resilient after a natural disaster can be explained in an instance of social resilience in the event of major problems like pandemics, for example, like the current situation. Now, basically, how the global resilience actually work. Since we all are part of a global resilience at this point, it starts with experiencing an acute challenge. Acute challenge means what we are challenged with adversity. Secondly, we need to develop awareness of the damage and understanding the extent of the damage. Basically, what it means is the next step on the path towards developing resilience usually begins with awareness that adversity can do damage in your life, and what extent it can cause damage is in your control. Third is basically preparing and developing mechanisms. This is a stage when we decide to learn about adversity or the problem on hand and becoming stronger and emotionally resilient. So there are two types of people will emerge from this pandemic. Either you will become a very, very strong person, or you'll be so emotionally resilient to get the first job in the first job interview. It just begins with a decision to stay stronger, and you have to think stronger and behave stronger. That is how we manage a decision for the rest of the period of adversity. If you pass through this pandemic, I can bet you you will be the most important leaders for the next 21st century. And last but not the least, action, which refers to various recovery programs that are undertaken by the individuals or the countries to reduce the impact of the damage that adversity can bring on. See, we all know we are in tough situation. So our focus should be how we can reduce the damage and not cause more damage. So next is basically I put this chart to understand, okay, what is more important, resilience or innovation, right? So the whole topic is global resilience, scaling the innovation economy. This means if you are resilient, will you innovate? And that's why this question mark is on the chart, which says, can resilience help to innovate? Or the other chart is, if you are innovative, can you be resilient? So I'll go back and forth. So if you're resilient, how you being resilient and what you can do in resilience is to innovate. However, if you're already innovative, can you sustain that innovation in being more resilient? So this is a very, very important question for you guys who are graduating in this pandemic year, to move further, because many people would actually evaluate you more than the just technical knowledge. And you have to really show them that you really understand that innovation. So I'm going to go with some types of innovation. So the types of innovation, one of the major benefits of innovation is to contribute the economic growth. And that's why we do all this kind of innovation, so that we know that we can have a greater amount of output to be generated. As a result, our productivity, services, goods are produced, and the economy grows. So for example, if you look at this chart, it basically says being resilient, can you become an innovative behavior? Yes, because if you are persistently resilient, this means you are constantly in generating ideas. And you're a positive person, this means you will promote the idea. And if you're combining both to be persistent and the emotion, this means you can actually implement that idea. So, this is how you can understand how resilience and innovative behavior goes by. Just by saying I'm resilient might be okay, but if you produce some kind of greater output, which can lead to higher productivity, that is how you can actually say that I have an innovative behavior. So once you go for a job interview, you basically say, yes, I am resilient because I've survived this whole thing. And in this whole thing, you have to generate an idea, and you have to promote the idea in social media, and you have to implement the idea if you really want the 21st century job, because people will ask you, working from home, what something specific you did, right? So before I move further, I want to say that innovation comes from, like incremental innovation, there's a disruptive innovation, there's a various type of innovation. But what can innovation do for organizations? If you look at this chart, this particular chart is telling you that how the innovation is critical for a strategy. This means for pre-COVID, COVID, and since COVID, if you look at the innovation, people can actually build resilient organization. So you want to join a resilient organization yourself. To be a part of a resilient organization, you have to show how innovative you are, and to be how innovative, you have to show how resilient were you during these tough times. So this is where another chart which says to you that resilient people can actually become high performance teams, because we will constantly face challenges. And if you look at this, 76% says greater resilience can actually bring more innovation. This means innovation and resilience together can achieve you for your teams. So tomorrow, if in an interview, you have to show your resilience, but you also have to show the innovation or some idea generation. And that way you can say that that is where I will fit for the organization, because they're going to ask you why you think you are a great fit. You have to explain them. So you say, I feel that your company were thriving in this thriving with resilience in this hardships. And I think I could be a contributor to innovate, and that is how you will start performing. Now, in this particular chart, I'm trying to show that how businesses outperformed during and after financial crisis, which everybody knows it happened in uh, 2008 and 2009 timeframe. If you look at the 3 years after the financial problem, you see a 30% growth, little over 30% growth during the crisis and after the crisis. Now, history really suggests that innovation through crisis outperform the peers, which basically means that you have to, again, it goes back to the same question, that can you innovate through the crisis, not sustain the crisis? And that's where you and your thoughts and your individual personality could be differentiated through your colleagues or through your classmates or through other institutions. Because at this particular point, they're not going to care about what institute you work. They're going to say, how are you investing your thoughts in a new innovation economy? And that's how the thrill will come. And this is another chart which I showed you for the crisis. And if you can see through the crisis, A lot of people may not know, but S&P is an index in US. You can actually check the Wall Street, and that's where it says that we are innovating over 30% after the crisis. So let's talk about the innovation. So we talked about the resilience. I'm going to take a pause here and ask Pradeep or other team members if they have questions.
Sir, please continue, sir. As of now, there are no questions.
Okay, fine.
We'll take up it
Thank you,
later.
Pradeep. So we're going to talk about innovation here. So I'm going to talk about what are the types of innovation. So I told you that you please try to generate an idea, implement an idea, test an idea, but how do you actually start? Innovation is a very broad word. And so we need to understand how actually the innovation takes full effect. So in order to understand all types of innovation at all, we need to really break down innovation in different ways. For example, the incremental innovation. Innovation usually starts with a small scale. For example, when the new technology is applied in the company or where the technology is developed. However, the full benefits of innovation it takes across the economy to equally benefit companies. This basically means that your idea should be able to actually resonate in your area in different sectors. For example, Uber, or for example, if you take as Instacart, which basically means every sector of or different sizes can actually get benefit. So other thing is how do you actually innovate and to be promoted. So structural measures to promote innovation include spending on R&D, investing in education like you all guys are doing, enabling entrepreneurs to start the businesses more easily, and failed businesses to exit the market more quickly. So basically, which means try to learn failure and try to adapt to the failure and try to get out of the failure as quickly as possible. So those are the, I think, basic traits which can help you to move forward. Now, innovation economy also indicates growing economy of the country where knowledge, technology, entrepreneurship, innovation are positioned at the center of developmental model rather than independent forces. When we put all these things together, that's where economy thrive. If you look at Singapore, how Singapore actually made themselves as a digital savvy transformation country. If you look at Singapore as a startup, there are only 6 million people, but they have made the whole behavior of a public and an example to how they are thriving. And that comes with a true leadership, and true leadership comes from the entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs have to authentically conduct their behavior, which comes from you guys, right? So I would go by another one, which basically talks about the architectural innovation and radical innovation. Now, in the architectural innovation, you actually find entirely new market. When I say entirely new market, means like it's not like we will have a Coke and Pepsi fight. There are two kind of drinks, but entirely new market would be okay. There's a drink, but let's make a coconut drink, right? That's entirely new market because you're not fighting against a soda. You're basically taking a natural products and basically giving them a new product entirely. And that's where these things come. And radical innovation gives to birth to industries which basically revolutionize technology, which basically means that how you apply a new technology to a new market for a longer run. So that's where I would say that you first find a new market and then try to apply the new technology. In new technology, in your case, would be artificial intelligence or machine learning or a deep learning. So you apply those technologies to innovate. So that's here the radical innovation can come. And these will be a best way to when you're going for job interviews to say, okay, I really have understood innovation and tell them, break them this innovation into different components and explain them. So now we come to the innovation economy. Now if you look at this innovation economy, it indicates again that basic traits and attributes of ideal innovative economy. This means this kind of economy is built primarily on the strength of knowledge management systems, driving innovation, encouraging entrepreneurship. The general behavior of the public in this kind of nation is, for example, ways to support communities. So, for example, in your public's uh, community or in your particular state, you should find ways to support communities and help each other to thrive. And that is where you take your talent by solving problems using your own skills. And this is where I think the nation will respect you for the passionate and award you as a long term thinker. And long term thinking basically only evolves by cultivating cross collaboration culture, which basically means you are CS graduates, but you should be able to cross collaborate among arts, among commerce, and you should build synergetic ecosystems. These nations further focus on strengthening infrastructure and the knowledge management systems by giving innovative opportunities and improving worker productivity. If you come with the idea of a worker productivity, that will actually take a next step to innovate. Now, how do actually innovation countries make it march together? So, if you look at Germany, right? Germany is making new technologies like driverless cars. So basically, this country is matchless in the process of developing ideas into products in economic stability by outstanding good with low inflation. South Korea is ranked especially on high R&D spending, manufacturing, value added, and high tech densities. Singapore tops in the list of infrastructure, health, and products. Switzerland, owing to a strong investment in research and development and high quality local universities. In fact, Switzerland creates a good condition for innovation. So, this means an environment can help to create innovation. This means you need to create yourself an environment, talk to your dean, talk to your HOD, and ask for a condition, giving the environment. That's all you need to ask for. You say, okay, I am developing these four products and I need an environment to come together. And give examples of other countries. Like, for example, Sweden, which is making commitment in investing more than 3% of the country's domestic GDP. If you look at London or UK, they have extensive groundbreaking medical research. So if you look at every country is becoming very, very specialized. The US has world's most sophisticated system for financing radical ideas. So this means we really finance, and that's where I come in, really finance into radical ideas. And we increase the mass initiatives. We focus on education, energy, entrepreneurship. So you yourself can make these things together and make a case. Make a case for your dean. Make their life easy. And the only way you can make their life easy is you got to do some work together. Share the collaborative approach. Share that we will uplift the community, not just yourself. Lifting yourself is not being resilient. You have to have a global resilience so that they can see that you can innovate an economy. You can scale the economy. This means in order to build a global resilience, stakeholders in the country have a very important role to play. Cultivating a culture of collaboration is the key for success. Key behaviors like willingness to accept risk. You got to accept a risk. And risk is not like you come on the road. Risk is faster failure, developing adaptability, demonstrating authenticity, and going towards intelligent leadership who is helping you to have this webinar. This means while marching towards innovation, creating an agile innovation systems and innovation opportunities. So I introduced a word called agile innovation. So I'm going to talk about this in a minute. So developing an innovation mindset that establishes repeatable processes. And that is where I think critical factors will develop if you develop the innovation mindset. So that is a key takeaway. However, building business through resilience, we need something, a lot of things we need to reimagine, which basically means How do we reimagine customer service? This means customer service sometimes could be very challenging. That's why we have bots, right? Reshaping your culture. Culture eats everything. So we got to be very careful what culture you bring in. Then refresh your leadership. If you go to your leadership team and refresh their ideas, they're depending on you. You are the next generation leaders. You have to make a business case, and basically you reignite your community, you reignite your classroom, you reignite your professors, and give them ability to say, we are there and we will reshape and reimagine everything. Now, how to boost global resilience and march towards innovation? This is more about how together we have to do, and this togetherness is a very great ability to think very innovative. For example, no country can prevent a global risk like COVID-19. Government and businesses can confront these challenges by enhancing their resilience. For example, the post 2008 recession, resilience emerged as a core concept for addressing financial crisis. The question for national leaders is whether these countries can weather the unprecedented crisis as it crosses borders. Addressing it requires accepting two fundamental things. First, global risks such pandemics are expressed at both national and local level, and no alone country can actually make that occurrences or mitigating their impact. This means leaders must apply systems thinking to respond to COVID-19 like pandemic and prepare for future risk. If you look at Gates Foundation is always thinking about how the next pandemic to avoid. The most important lesson to avoid this examination risk is to not in isolation, but leaders to adopt the mindset of systems thinking and a multi-layer approach for taking a risk. So why wait until age 30 when you young people can actually examine that leaders' adoption of mindset is systems thinking, and you are all CS graduates. You want to be in a systems thinking environment and determined to take a risk. Risk, risk, and risk. You are in a risk. I'm in a risk. Everybody's in a global risk. But taking an additional risk for your career is an ability where you can really be efficient and spend more time trusting yourself and taking believing in yourself. Okay, so I'm going to pause this now before I jump into the last slide for the first section, where I feel what will be the roadmap to the innovation economy. The roadmap, what I figured out, there are three critical components where the economy can be extremely useful to becoming an innovative. For example, building a culture of empathy. Now, empathy is so important that you have to really feel the pain of other person. You just have to feel it. Now, other thing is called collaboration, which I have told many, many times. This means leading a time of uncertainty by rethinking strategy and a high level collaboration. We got to collaborate with different sections of your universities or a university collaboration with another university. That is how, and the last but not the least, you have to have a purpose. The purpose actually rebuild nations with the impact and purpose that's possible through a grand vision and relentless working towards it. So set a broad vision. Okay, I'm not sure about all your ages, but let's say, what will I become at age 25? And that's where I feel with empathy, collaboration, and vision as a focus elements, you can build a momentum for global resilience and innovation on ongoing basis. This would be resulting in improving the maturity at all levels of you young people and the nation, and that's how you start making a model framework to lead a building a stronger economy as a world. So, although this model is very simple, this would be very effective when awareness of living lives with empathy, collaboration, and having a long term vision is talked about by the nation builders. And who are the nation builders? Those are you people, are the nation future nation builders. So, foster these characteristics and make your nation proud. So, and that's where I feel that if you look at these focus elements of empathy, collaboration, and vision, together as resilience and innovation will give you a maturity. So when after this talk, go home and or already you already home, but go to a vision wall. Make a wall of your vision. Make a grand vision wall. Put a chart out there to say how can I empathize with the current situation? How can I collaborate? Start giving back to the community. Let me collaborate not by asking but by giving, and share the grand vision. This is I would like to become. So this concludes the first section of my talk. And the next section is I'm going to talk about the new normal and what are those important elements for you to break into a new industry, and what are we looking at you guys which will make you different than your colleagues, your competition, and you stand out. So I'm going to take a pause and ask Pradeep before I jump to the second and the last section of the talk.
There's one small question in the chat box, sir.
Go ahead, please.
With new innovation, will it do impact on resilience and how it will impact on resilience?
Okay, very good. So this question we have talked about. We will put this question towards the end. So please name the person who asked it.
Uh, the student name is Amit Hegde.
Okay, very good. So we're going to put this. This will happen once we finish our talk. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, no problem, sir.
Okay, cool. So I just want to check if there are burning question, but this question is almost answered. So we will do the justice to towards the end of it. Okay. So guys, this is a section which is going to be very fast and very quick. So we all know we are facing new challenges and in the new normal. However, only 1 out of 5 Americans are optimistic about their economic prospects in the next year. 1 out of 5. That's dangerous, right? Now, what happens is in the country as a whole, if you think this is a 12 months, we will have a good or bad times, right? So if you look at only 22% feel they'll be somewhat bad. But the most important number is the 9%. This means only 9% people think something good will happen. That's not fair. In the new normal, we are thinking so negative, right? Again, remember the mindset and the bold mindset. Now, what happens in this chart? We are all facing the challenges, but 60% of the Americans are thinking of widespread unemployment. Basically, it means that there will be an economic depression in next 5 years. But there's a hope to find to adapt. Again, adapt. So, what are the traits which are associated with the success of coronavirus crisis? And if you adapt these two traits, and I can assure you, you all have it. Everybody has it. You don't need to read any book. You all have this, which basically is curiosity. Curiosity is a willingness to explore. Why is this? When we all were babies, including myself, yourself, and everybody, we all used to ask this question. Go check with your mom and dad. We all did something called why. Why we need to do this? We used to be exploring yourself, right? And agility. So curiosity, we all had it. We lose somehow by 18, 19, or 20. The research says we somehow lose it because we want to fit in a society, because we are worried about what others will think. So we lose the curiosity. This means every single individual has it. You don't have to go to some top tier university to learn it. However, we do not use it. The second is an ability to resolve, act quickly, to adapt to new and fundamentally changing conditions is called agility. This means when you are joining your new MNC company or any company, they are going to evaluate you. How do you think outside the box? That is where extreme capability of you guys will be determined whether you will be hired or not. So take this, become that curious, and become that agile. And I think that will fundamentally change how you move further. Now, let's say if we don't have curiosity, so what happens, right? So even the agile organizations are left. This means if you have one agile and you're not curious, this means it is not good. And let's say if you're curious but you don't agile, you can't adapt quickly. So this means we got to have both curiosity and agility. So we talked about resilience, we talked about innovation, but how do you actually start innovating? We are types of innovation we talked about. So curiosity becomes the foundation of the innovation. So until we have the curiosity, which is a key element, then you innovate and then you become resilient. Now, many organizations have curiosity in their DNA, right? But when it comes to coronavirus crisis, not everybody is using it. It's the same problem. This means even bigger organizations who are running the show at middle-aged people who are CEOs, they had curiosity too, but in coronavirus everything got died. It's the same condition. When we both were young and at age 19, 20, we lost it. This means everybody loses it in terms of pandemic. However, the way to successful to adopt to new normal, we should work on gathering a feedback. So let's say we lose it. Okay, great, we lose it. Now how can we get it back? So this means in global pandemic, we must adopt to curious mindset. And the curious mindsets are going to be succeeding in the new environment. So adapting the mindset, which one? The curiosity mindset. So again, if you have to be volatile or if you get into responding to any volatile situation, we have to have an agility, which is a key important time to be in the unprecedented motto. This means, do agile organizations really fare better in coronavirus? Okay, agile companies are 50% extremely prepared and very prepared, as opposed to the less agile companies, which are only 10%. This means employees of agile companies are dramatically more likely to say their companies can withstand economic downturn. And that is where you guys come into a play when the future generation or future leaders like yourself are agile. Agile company is what? Agile company is a company made of human beings. It's not it's not like a science. It's like humans make the good companies. If you look at Facebook or Google, where I've worked, it's very tough to get in because you really have to go through many months of work to get there. This means employees of those companies only take agility as a person's persona, and you have to show that during an interview process. This means, look, this is another chart where agile companies are performing at 28% as opposed to the less agile companies. Now let's talk about people who don't work at agile companies are much likely to say they are not meeting customer needs. So this chart is actually saying agile companies, which are over 70% versus 39%. This chart is saying less agile companies have tough time. Now, if you look at the chart, less agile companies are 9% versus 20%, which are agile companies, which are actually 20%. This means agility is crucial for adding new customers and retaining the ones. It's always the customers which makes or break the new companies. Now, let's break down for how different sectors approach to agility and curiosity. Now, if you look at this, 80% of the tech companies and the marketing companies are actually the sectors which approach to agility and curiosity. This means you really want to work with a tech company or a marketing company which can change quickly, which can adapt quickly. This is where organizations across industries are finding ways to respond to the crisis. This chart actually shows the industry breakdown. If you look at the top right hand corner, the extreme right, you look at the tech. This means tech is adapting quickly, it's changing the business strategy quickly, it's updating the improvements quickly, it's adapting to new products, and new products and services are as quickly as possible as compared to look at the next one, the retail or a non-profit or a healthcare. This means at some point tech leads everywhere because tech knows how to adapt. So if you want to join a tech company, this means you have to become adaptable. To become adaptable, you have to become curious and then you have to become agile. And that is where the top right hand corner, sorry, the right hand corner is leading the chart as compared to education, as compared to entertainment, as compared to food, as compared to health and care. It is exceeding in single every single place because of the approach. And approach is two ways. So many organizations are using curiosity as a guideline. So basically, what they're saying is, oh, if you have new idea, let's praise the idea. And that is where I told you in the beginning that in order for you to become that thing, you have to first come with the idea, then quickly test the idea, and then implement the idea. Now, this is actually showing you how curious companies are approaching. This is an industry breakdown. Again, in this particular case, the ideas are more praised. This means if you join a company in a tech, they will praise about an idea. But how will you get to the company? How will you get hired? You have to show some kind of agility or a new development or a new product at the current place where you are. Again, if you look at the chart, it says creativity, adaptation, changing circumstance. Tech is again leading as compared to marketing, as compared to entertainment, as compared to airlines. Again, the right hand side is green. It's the numbers are high as compared to other sectors. Tech is again leading. So you are actually in a very good place. If you look at your career at this particular point, you should be lucky enough to be in a technology space and especially in the computer science. This means we need both agility and curiosity to be succeeding all times. Now, in order to become curious, how will you do that? We need to actually start thinking a little bit beyond than getting a feedback. This means many companies do not like feedback, but curious companies are for might take an action on a feedback. This means curiosity is feedback. So basically, we remember when you took an idea and then you wanted to implement an idea and test, what was happening? You were actually taking a
Sir,
feedback.
your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Pradeep, they can hear me. So, agile companies are so basically, again, to join an agile company, we have to start thinking of creative ways to solve a problem. And there's no other better place where you can think those traits are you have it. Now, this doesn't mean that they are limited to small startups. If you look at it, many creative solutions and challenges are sticking to a high end companies, enterprise. This means agility and curiosity are associated with startups, but also implies that enterprise organization can solve problems with creativity and agility. This means if you want to really join a big company, you must do some kind of a small startup or small idea and test it. Now, basically, this chart is going to say if you are curious and agile, why it is so important to succeed during this crisis. So we talked about these two are most important thing for the future to foster the environment. So you have to pitch your future employer about these traits. But you want to join a culture where creativity is celebrated, not the income, not the boss, but you define the new culture. This means you join a boss which is creative and he celebrates creativity, and the creativity only comes by thinking. So companies which are rewarding thinking are more agile. So if you look at this chart, they're saying creative thinking people are praised or rewarded very quickly. That's why they are 37%. This means many companies, 84%, are rewarding creative thinking, only thinking. Look at that. This means if you show the adaptability to change, you show an adaptability to question, you show the ability to more curious, you could be actually more agile and you could be hired more quickly. This is a chart again which says if you look at the back one which says creative thinking, this is basically saying that 71% of creative thinking is most likely to be praised or rewarded. Companies that are rewarding creative thinking is likely to find like success. And that's where you find more success people and they are stable when it comes to the financial growth. So constant feedback is very important. This means we can't just depend on one feedback. We have to go all over the social web to find out how we can actually make a collective feedback from different sources. Now, collective feedback actually helps to tune in the customers. For example, I had somebody come from different country and they were not able to find how to use Uber. So Uber took this as a collective feedback how international people book for a cab because there's a big chart of Uber, but there's a very small place where they can actually hit the order button. But they were agile and they were mostly meeting customer needs, not their needs, not the developer needs, but the customer needs. So collecting, as I mentioned, it keeps people happy. So, but the problem is the customers are sometimes very difficult to maintain because sometimes they don't know what to say. It becomes sometimes difficult, but collecting feedback, you are making actually the customers happy. Now, many people, companies are leaving the critical feedback on the table, which basically means only one third of the companies actually collect feedback from potential customers. This is where you can start going back to the same idea question. Once you have an idea, you start generating the more ideas and you start implementing. And then you can do is you can start taking a collective feedback. There's another company I invested which were just taking feedback from customers who were standing in the Starbucks. Obviously, it was 5 years ago, but they were taking constant feedback. People love to give feedback, positive or negative, and that is where I think your ideas can start implementing. But after taking a feedback, you got to put some action because taking action helps you to grow. So after you take the feedback, you start taking action on it. And the companies who are taking feedback, taking a bold action, is combating the coronavirus. But this is are the people who are actually changing the business strategy. If you look at the top chart, it clearly says 52% people have changed the business strategy in order to update and release improvement. This means they are constantly listening to customers. So if you do your startup, if you have an idea, if you implement an idea, and if you take the feedback, people or hiring people or the new company will think you are a perfect fit because you know nothing is perfect by themselves. So I'm in the concluding slide. And if you take the feedback, so now what we have to see is how our resilient and innovative economy works. So basically, we have to make sure, does it create an intergeneration value? Does it make city more resilient? So any idea you take or product or service, we have to see if it is a net positive impact on the well-being of the company. This means any idea you take, you first think, okay, will this impact economy? Will it have a positive effect? Will this actually product or service will be used by capital responsibly? Will this idea help my city be more resilient? Or it can improve a dysfunctional system. For example, healthcare is very dysfunctional. Education is also dysfunctional. So, if any of your ideas can improve a dysfunctional system, that could be more resilient and innovative. So, here's my contact information. That would be my conclusion of the presentations. I would still want to say one more time to thank you to the deans, the university people, the head of the department, Geeta and Pradeep, and I would love to take questions in my closing. I mentor a lot of people. So if you have an idea, connect me on LinkedIn. That would be the best place to get the engagement. Emails sometimes take longer, but however, you feel free to reach out. I would highly encourage you to have make a LinkedIn profile of yourself because that is where you develop a lot of connections, and from the connections you really get jobs if you're looking one, or you get mentorship from my end. So at this particular point, I will open up for questions, and any questions are welcome. And I'm happy to take my first question from the gentleman.
Amit,
Uh,
Amit.
yeah. So please repeat the question slowly.
Yes, sir. With new innovation, will it do impact on resilience and how it will impact on resilience?
Okay. So we talked about this where we showed. I think I can go back to the chart. So this was a chart which I was basically saying that how resilience and innovation work together. So that's how this chart should answer his question. So basically is that you have to have being persistent. So this chart basically shows whether resilience is important or it drives innovation. And this chart shows if innovation people are actually more resilient. But actually the way it works is a combination. The combination of being resilient is actually thriving the innovation behavior, which basically we start with some kind of a generation of a problem. This problem becomes an idea, and then you really collect the feedback and you start implementing. But it all works with some kind of a thing called being curious, being agile, being to work with feedback. So hopefully, Amit, if you have a further question, you can please type in. Pradeep, you have a second question?
Yes, sir. Yes. The next question is from Chirag. He says, since market is unpredictable, and if a company or a startup suffers a downfall, what motivates them to make a comeback, or how do they understand their point of resilience?
Right. So we all fail, whether it's pandemic or it's not pandemic. Right. When we were kids, we used to fall and then we used to walk. So an ability to do it quickly will be more motivating. So every failure, if you turn into an opportunity of learning, that would give you more creative confidence to move forward. And the way it is very simple, Travis, who is a founder but not a CEO of Uber, he took up a challenge that black car, they say, we don't go to a customer comes to us. So he turned around this. If you look at the financial system of Professor Yunus, he basically turned around microfinance, which was never possible through big banks. So the ability to, I think, keep on trying it. If you look at Dyson, Dyson, that founder have failed 4,000 times. If you look at Gilbert, he has failed 40 times. So all these people have failed. So the lesson learned is how fast you fail and how much you learn exponentially from that failure. If it answers your question, please go ahead and post another question. So we'll go to question number three, Pradeep.
So one student asks Neha, what is a good choice to start a career, either working in MNC or a startup?
A very good question. What's the background of this person?
She's
Professional?
a second year student, sir,
Okay.
computer science.
So, yeah, very good. So both are important in a career. So I started my career with Accenture, but if you are ready to take a risk, then you should join a startup. Startup is important because first it's a mindset. Second, you have to trust the idea. In a bigger company, you are given a task. Your task could be automated at some point. But in a startup, you really work, either you become a founder or you work with the founder. You will only work with the founder if you believe this idea can become big. This means the founder has to sell the idea to you and you have to believe the idea will work. However, the challenge in the startup is the team. If a founder cannot have a good team members, that idea can fail. For example, there was a founder of college, I don't remember the exact name of the company, but his goal was to bring all the college students together. However, his execution failed. However, first Facebook could copy the same idea, but it executed. This means best ideas will be copied. So, for example, this person Neha, you have to think, okay, if this idea gets copied, great, because best ideas will be copied, period. You can't stop them copying. But the question is how well you execute. So, we have this college person, he's a founder and CEO, and he himself says that I failed in execution. This means you have to first find the founder, believe in the idea, believe in yourself that you really want to make an impact, and with that impact you want to say how are you actually making the team. If the team goes well, you please continue that journey of a startup because you will learn a lot of things during that process. However, if you join a big companies, you will be given a task, and the task gets monotonous over a period of 2 years. So you will be very excited to join a big company, but if you are a person who wants to constantly innovate, your innovation can hit a ceiling and you might start getting bored after 2 years. So in order to decide, since you're a second year, you can start working on your idea now. You can start generating 100 ideas, filter to 50 ideas. There's an X and Y axis. Talk to people, will this work? Right? For example, there was a person who said, I want to deliver the food. Okay, great. They say, I want to deliver the home food. But the problem in COVID is people don't trust other person's hand. So the delivery of food is good, but the idea to execute the food is not good, right? So these kind of things are going to keep on testing. So you are a second year, this means you have 2 more years to go. So you can constantly keep testing ideas. And if you're a true leader, form a team. Convince somebody to join you. That will show you a leadership quality in yourself. And even if you fail for the next 2 years, you can present this case to the bigger company to say, at least I tried. And I tried 10 times and I failed all 10 times. They will immediately absorb you. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, Neha, please ask another question because I don't know how to look
Yes,
at
I am.
you.
I'm
Yeah,
always. Thank you, sir.
yeah, no problem. If any more questions on Neha, you can always email or find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is much easier. Uh, Emails take me time to answer because I get thousands of those. And for to everybody who's listening, if you just put your institute name or a word called resilience in a subject line of email or LinkedIn, I will immediately get, oh, these are the people I know of virtually. So I will be able to prioritize my email response to you guys. So thank you, Neha, for asking question. We'll go to question number 4.
Sir, one student by name Mohammed is asking that as the students are new to the and as the students are freshers, um, how they will come to Nave Solutions and how they understand the existing market and existing business models better way.
Yeah, so we all know business models, right? I'm sure a lot of people know Netflix, right? So the business model concept is very simple. Everybody reads newspaper, they absorb content through Facebook, right? So if you look at what's happening is it's called a freemium model. In order to work on a new business model, we have to first understand the current models, right? So if you look at the current models, everything is SaaS. This means everything is in cloud. Your Salesforce, your email, your Gmail from Yahoo, right? 20 years ago, everything is in a. So how do Yahoo works? They say, okay, you don't want ads? Give me $5. I'll remove the ads, right? So you first have to learn ability. Remember the ability of curiosity. The curiosity, how Yahoo is making money. Nobody even cares about Yahoo email. We all go by free like Gmail, but we have ads. If you look at the promotion tab, there's always an ad. They always read your emails, right? So there is no privacy. So if we understand the current business models, we can start thinking about different business models. So, in order to learn some business models, I would say go for subscription business. Subscription business is once time you type, let's say you read the content, and then you can ask a user to pay for it. If you look at many news people, if you look at many news uh, websites, if you look at in coronavirus, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, first five articles are free. Okay, great. This means they hook you for the first five articles because they need your time and attention. Then after the fifth article is over, they start asking you money. Now, this was not existing 5 years ago, right? So they have come to a conclusion a lot of people want to do this. Other people, if you look at Harvard and other universities, they basically opened up free content in the coronavirus. They say, okay, go and access free, but they put a limit of 60 days free. This means they want to give you a taste of something. And if you like the taste, then you will most likely to pay them. At the end of the day, we will pay for something what we need. And that is where we need to innovate. Okay, that is where we call business model design. How do we actually make a customer pay for your service or a product? So first we study the current business models. The best way to learn is go to any news website. All news websites will give you first article free or top three articles free and just keep charging you later on. So that's one way to learn. Other way to is learn is cloud computing. Like everything sits on a cloud, which basically means that you don't need to have any administrative cost, any overhead cost, because everything is in cloud and everything is very responsive. Other thing to think about is if you look at a lot of chatbots, a lot of websites will have chatbots. This basically means lot many customer service jobs will be outsourced to a bot, and bot will only answer the questions which they understand. This means there's a big opportunity to improve the bot because a lot of people don't want to wait for somebody for 10 minutes because nobody has time. People have a less attention span. People get bored in less than 1 minute. So I'm a founder of something called 7 second pitch. Basically, 8 second is the attention span of a goldfish. Babies have 1 second. You guys have 20-year-old have 3 seconds. I'm not 20-year-old, so I have at least 4 to 5 seconds. But at some point, 7 seconds is all we got. This means attention economy could be another thing. This means you can start innovating on a content, like engaging a content. Suddenly you can bring the user to your website. That's another way to think. So creative ways of thinking are all online and all digital. You got to have a curiosity. I've given maybe 4 or 5 examples, but if you need more examples or if you have an idea which needs a business model design, my contact information is on the screen. Question number five, please.
Yes, sir. I feel this question is pretty much interesting. Asked by student Priyanka.
Uh-huh.
Imagine we are collecting a feedback. If we get very high negative feedback, should we start from the scratch for better improvement or just make changes from the current one?
Right. So when we say negative feedback, we have to, that's why we put a scale. So if you look at Southwest Airlines, they will ask you two-question feedback. The first question is, will you recommend us to a friend? So there's a star called most likely and there's called not likely, right? And then they ask you, would you like to continue our journey? So the way to work on a negative feedback is asking customers only two, three questions because asking 100 questions may not be a very right fit. See, what we want to do in a new idea is first implement and then scale. So, at what phase of your idea is, we need to generate minimum questions as possible. What minimum questions means if you're launching an idea, your question should be, hey, if this service is available, would you buy it? Okay, great. Yes, you'll buy it. Then ask a second question. How much are you willing to pay? Right? Don't start with like $0. Start with like $2, $5, because people are going to pick up the lowest dollar value. So those two questions will give you a hint whether this will work. Now, I think this lady is asking a question which might be a feature question. Like, what are the features of my product? That is a totally different question because, as I mentioned, earlier. So I was a product design for Uber 5 years ago. So I don't know if you guys use Uber, but the problem with Uber was when you give a star rating after your ride, you basically there is a star rating, but below there was a sentence, empty sentence, which says, "Would you like to give a feedback?" Right? That's all they used to ask. However, if you write a word which is, let's say, yes, this driver was okay, and if you keep on writing, the sentence towards the left disappears. This means it did not have enough spaces, enough large space to write the feedback. Because imagine you write one sentence and it disappears, right? And then you write a second sentence and that disappears because there's no space in a smartphone. You won't write an email where you want to read the email one more time before sending it. Everybody does. So what they did was they found this challenge. So I basically said people are avoiding writing a feedback because they can't even read the first sentence after they type it, or they just don't have enough space. So what they did was I basically made this particular feedback and we started doing emojis. Emojis means applauding, sad, right? Non-entertaining, boring. So images suddenly gave the feedback very consistent about the behavior of the driver, because all we needed was a behavior of the driver. Either you can write it or you can, in this case, become emojified. So emojis gave a lot of data back to Uber about the driver behavior. So basically there was a small feature change which people were not writing, and now people were doing it because we made them easier. So there are two parts of this question. One is a feature, and one is if you're launching. So I forgot the name. What was the name of the person?
Priyanka, sir. Priyanka.
Yeah, Priya, you need to tell at what stage of your are you in a feedback process? Are you in a launch state or you are in a product feature test stage? So depending on those two questions, we can talk more. So please feel free to contact more or reach out via LinkedIn for more information. So question number 6. And
So
if
once,
she is alive, she is on the live session, you can ask more questions. So any of those 5 people, feel free to ask more questions.
yeah, anybody wants to have a live question, they're always open. Feel free to ask
I want to remind
questions.
everybody that top 10 people will be awarded 30 minutes of the time from Silicon Valley for your idea or for anything you need one-on-one. So it will be one-on-one time for you guys, but only for top 10. Okay. Question number 6, please.
So what
Yes.
kind of skill?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yeah, go on. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, what do you think that what kind of skills should a person require to make his career successful in the market presently?
What kind of skills? Is that a question?
Yes, sir.
Skills, okay. So there are two type of skills. So if you look at the World Economic Forum, you can Google it. In 2015, there was nothing called emotional intelligence. In 2020, or you can look up one of my LinkedIn posts in the activity section, where I basically say that EQ is now the top 10 skill. So if I tell you a skill today, it might become redundant in 2 years, right? But at this particular point, what's your background? Are you CS major?
She's the same student, sir. Neha previously asked a question on.
Okay, Neha. Okay, Neha. So second year CS student. Okay. So I personally feel that the world is moving towards artificial intelligence. So for a core technical skill, you might able to pick that up and might work on more, business modeling cases for machine learning models. So that might give you an upper edge. However, bigger companies want to know how you actually really did during resilient time, and then you can just say I read books and papers and being curious and agile, and I just do creative thinking to find different ways to work this out, right? Why every project has to have a machine learning, right? Can I make my model using less data? Can I use my model using lean data? So these are the things which people are looking for you. If you look at other bigger companies like semiconductor companies, they will not even hire you just based on your degree. They will hire you based on how you think. So two things you have to think. How do you think? How do you approach a problem? That is one thing, and you have to have a fundamental, definitely, where you are, just like pizza. Every pizza has a base, but then toppings are different, right? So you have to have a base fundamental, and that fundamental base will get you from point A to B. But to get into the bigger organization, you have to leapfrog. You have to show a strength which is very unique towards you, and the only uniqueness will be not your resume, but showing certain things while you are at school. You're doing something unique and different, or at least trying it, and show your failure. Okay, I failed 10 times. I failed 10 times doing this. Then I thought, okay, this may work, this may not work. Then I collected feedback. From feedback, I failed, then I improved. And everything you can do something called paper prototyping. So there is, you Google this word called paper prototyping, which basically means that you're not developing an app, you're not spending time and energy and money to making a Google app, or a Play Store, or an app store, spending lots of huge set of money. You can just use paper prototyping and say, okay, if this screen happens, this screen happens, this screen happens. So that's another way of testing your idea, very lean. So the tip to you is that you start thinking lean and start thinking an approach. How do you think? And start documenting it. And then you can show some proofs to your hiring manager or to the company, and you be selective which company you want to get hired. And you tell the person, this the reason I want to get hired is because of this, because I feel your company has this values. Like if you look at Amazon, Amazon never tells that you need to be a Python developer. They have their 10 values, and if you fit any of the 10 values, you will be hired. So it's a very different way of now getting hiring process. So thanks for asking a question. Again, my contact information is online. Ask, feel free to reach out, and we can set up one-on-one call. Does it help?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
So, sir, how much time we have for the Q&A, sir?
It's okay. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Um,
don't. We're going to answer all questions. Yeah.
yes, sir. So one question from the student asking about
I need the
uh,
name of the student, please. I don't need just vague. I need a specific name.
Muhammad. The student name is Muhammad.
Okay.
Do we start with the technology and find domains to apply it, or we do find domains that need help and see if our area of interest can solve it?
Very good. This is a very good question. So it will be a domain. The reason is it is enabler, right? Technology should be taken as an enabler. If you look at, if I saw advertisement of Google 2 years ago where a taxi driver who cannot read and write can actually talk to a machine. This was Google thought, but Google never thought this 15 years ago when Google started. This means Google started with technology, but then it reached to a point where nobody could use it. What if you give somebody a smartphone and they can't even type English alphabet or a local language? It's useless for that person because he's not educated. For him, it is a useless device. This means Google is useless. Maybe it's a billion-dollar company, but nobody can use who is not educated. So they thought about it talking to a machine in a local language. What if you can't type? What if you can't pronounce? Sorry, what if you can't grammatically type something? Right? So that is where you should always start with the domain or the sector, and then use the technology. What technology at that given point? Because by the time you choose a sector, or it might take you couple of months, things might evolve. So for example, it is very hard. Let's say you're wearing a shoe. If I ask you where the shoe is, you will say ABC store, but nobody knows where the ABC store is if it's a local store. But what if I could scan from my phone your shoe, and then it immediately goes and tells me where actually it is available? Wouldn't be that easier? Rather than asking you and then you scratching your head, oh, I got this from 2 months ago from that store, but I don't know if it's there or whatever, right? So think about it, what are you trying to sell is visual shopping, right? So basically you're saying rather than text shopping, I text a shoe, I will do a visual because I exactly know what I want to buy. So suddenly you see a visual. So now you say, okay, how will I actually do visual shopping? This means I need to develop some learning models which can scan the shoe and at least the scan should understand it's a shoe. Because if you look at muffin and look at the front uh, of the dog face, it looks the same. So computer algorithms got confused 3 years ago if it's a muffin or if it's a dog, because we all started with artificial intelligence. We never thought that image of muffin at some point looks like a dog image in the front face. So computer algorithms got confused. So because we started with technology, we never thought about the consequence of technology, right? So that's how you have to think. You start with the problem and think technology as an enabler. Your cell phone is an enabler. It helps you to achieve something. It helps you to WhatsApp to connect around the world, right? When you use WhatsApp, you don't think about it's a Python code or it's a C++ code. You just need to know, hey, if the person is online, that's all you care about. So if you want to develop for masses, you have to go by sector, go by the problem. And the problem is how deep or passionate you are on the problem. And how do you think about the problem? How curious you are about the problem? What can you do? What extent can you go to solve the problem? Right? So those are the things which will matter, and then tech will come. Then you can say whether I want to use C, C hash, Python, what kind of language I want to use for the speeding effects. So that's how you have to think. If you look at the jet, these days they constantly send data back to the Earth while they are flying. So there is a constant communication between the jet flying and on the people on the planet Earth who constantly monitoring. Now, which blade server they have to use is Hewlett Packard or Sun or IBM. That is a different issue. But what was the first need? The need was I need to know constant maintenance of my flight 30,000 feet up in air. And then you select, okay, what technology shall I use? So start with the problem. If you have more questions, either you can email, LinkedIn, or ask more right now. Your choice. Question number 7, please.
Yes, sir. So what is the right time to decide an idea to be implemented? This is from Amarnath.
Right now. The idea to be tested is right now. If you have an idea, test right now.
Right, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
If you have an idea, you should test right now.
No, sir. I mean that there were many companies which made an app similar to YouTube, but they really failed miserably. But like YouTube was actually right on time when the internet era was booming. So how to decide an idea is right to be implemented today? Because we don't know, right? So
So first, we need to define the idea, right? See, if you have only one idea, that is not an idea. The idea people usually have many ideas.
okay, sir.
So if you talk to a founder, so the founder will say, I have like 50 ideas, and they are confused which idea to go about. So the idea which can be scalable will be serving the community. Because at some point, customer needs to buy your idea, right? They will only buy your idea through your app, through your service, or through your product. So you think about an idea which people are willing to pay. At some point, to sustain an idea, you need to get paid, right?
Right, sir.
So the best way to think about the idea is very quickly get the idea, get iteration of ideas, correct? Different iteration of ideas. Quickly test the idea and see the feasibility of the idea if people are willing to pay. Remember, I was mentioning you You ask, I think Neha asked a question that you ask this in a survey, a two-question survey. What would you pay for this idea? Give some options.
Mm-hmm.
$1, $2, right?
Right, sir.
So first write 10 ideas and don't talk to your family and friends. Talk to strangers. Always talk your ideas to strangers because friends and family sometimes could be biased because they will say your idea will not work. That's the first sentence you will get to know. Your idea will not work. You know this company called what is this? Nest. Have you heard of the company called Nest?
No, sir.
So Nest, Nest. So you can Google it. Is actually bought by Google. So this founder's wife told that this idea will not work.
Okay, sir.
So if somebody's wife is telling this idea will not work, but he was convinced this idea will work. So my question is, it became a $1 billion company. It was a very simple idea. Idea was just a thermostat in a digital format. Very simple idea. Because of simplicity, her wife told it will not work. But he went anyway because he was frustrated. So look for some ideas which people are frustrated, right? Like for example, we don't get time to fill the gas. So there is a startup idea which says, I will come and fill you the gas. Because gas is very time consuming process. And gas, as you know, can get over mostly unexpected times. So will this idea work? Yeah, this idea will work. Now, the other problem we have is since we all commute by cars, we have the oil change problem. Or suddenly the oil light will come up, right? It doesn't tell, it just comes up, okay, there's an oil change. Now it's okay, but 5 years ago it was not the case. Now, if you look at Microsoft in Silicon Valley and other companies, they have an oil change in the campus because oil change is freaky 2.5 hours job. It is actually just 5 minutes job or 9 minutes job, but the total time taken is usually 2 hours. You have to set an appointment, you have to walk out in a busy day, in a busy traffic. The total amount of time is Microsoft thought, okay, forget this. We will bring the oil change in the campus. So if you come over here, there's an oil change guy sitting there. The other problem is if you talk about haircut. If you go other companies, there's a haircut salon in the campus. You want haircut? No, because haircut happens between 9 to 5. This means 9 to 5. Either you have to destroy your day, half a day, or you have to go for a haircut or have a big hair. So they said we will bring the hair salon towards you. So you walk out from your campus in the lunch and get the haircut. So sometimes you have to experimentation mode. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Question number 8, please.
One student by name Srinivas has started online grocery website in Hubli.
Very
So
good.
he got some feedback, some good feedback and some bad feedback. So for some reasons he could not continue. Now he want to restart the grocery website. So how can he restart?
Yeah, we have to listen to his bad feedback. So can you share the bad feedback?
Srinivas, I think you're online. Please go
Hi,
ahead.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The some of the bad feedbacks like the delivery charges. Like some of the companies in Hubli, they are providing zero delivery charges for minimum amount also, sir.
Okay,
And
so
the
that
and the quality of our goods is very good for compared to them. But due to the delivery charge, there are some customers are moving from our website to other websites.
got you. So what is the delivery charge for your website?
Like so, like 500 or below 500, we will charge about 50 rupees, and above 500, we will provide a free delivery.
Okay, so there is a threshold limit, right?
Yes.
So 500 is so would you like to lower to like 300?
Yeah, sir, we're thinking about, sir, but uh, it will be on us only, sir. The loss will be on us only, sir.
Okay, then other thing you could do is you can make them a member,
Yes, sir.
right? So if you say as a member you get, so they want free, right? So
Yes,
fine,
sir.
very, very good. You basically say, okay, you become a member of 200 rupees and I will give you four delivery free.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
still use the same 500,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So for 500, you get $50, 50 rupees. Sorry, the confusion about this. So
Yes.
if they charge, so weekly, you said weekly, I will give you free,
Okay.
provided you give me 200 rupees as a membership fee.
Yes, sir.
And membership needs to be collected upfront.
Yes, sir.
This means you already collected 200 rupees of the 4 week delivery.
Yes, sir.
So that helps them. You say, okay, I'll give you free. No problem. Okay, you can
Yes, sir.
mute the cell phone, please. Yeah. Somebody can mute the cell phone.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Question number 9.
Shall I go? Yeah, question number 9. One student by name Amit, the same guy who asked the previous questions, nowadays AI is popular. If we develop to its peak in the fields, will it not be won't be a threat to the industry or world?
Okay, repeat the question, please. If AI is on the peak, okay, that I got it. What is the next one?
If we develop to its peak in the fields,
Uh-huh.
will it won't be a threat to that industry or world? Amit, are
Yes,
you online?
threat to the industry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, please elaborate your question, Baba.
Yes, sir. Sir, if we implement the AI to speak in a military base, sir, making it automation and all, if someone finds its loophole and took it control, it won't be a threat, sir. Like they can attack and all, sir.
Yeah, there is always a threat for every technology, right? There are what you call unintended consequences. So I'll give you the example. Okay. So my grandfather on a weekend, I vaguely remember, he used to read four newspapers. And I always wonder like why he read four newspapers, different, okay? So he'll read the paper top to bottom, then he'll flip, and then I don't remember exactly, but he will go through all the four newspapers, right? And I always wondered that what information could be different in all four newspapers. Obviously, I was a kid, so I used to observe. So I never used to read it because maybe I was not, you know, uh, savvy on reading newspapers. But what I figured out was that he used to browse. Now, why that is important? So he passed away when he was 92. So this means after 90 years, there was a Facebook. So Facebook is also same thing. You keep on scrolling, right? The difference is after four newspapers, you reach to an end. But scrolling Facebook, you never reach to an end. So the person who invented is right now in a very bad shape because he thinks he has made a lot of people's life time waste. So the number one time wasting company in the world is Facebook. Everybody knows it. Facebook is time killer, but the person who invented is called unlimited scrolling. Okay, so he invented unlimited scrolling. This means he changed the behavior of the human being. So if you go to Gmail, right? Let's say you go to simple Gmail, it ends at after 100 emails, or maybe 200 emails, or maybe 300 emails, and you have to flip the page. So this means you can't constantly look at 50,000 emails on one page, but you can go 50,000 posts unlimited in Facebook. So why that's important to understand? Because when somebody invents, they don't see everything. They see, oh, What they were looking at, oh, they should not leave Facebook. This means if you come to my website, which is Facebook, you should not leave it. Because if you don't leave it, then you have my attention. This means you are giving up on all other things other than Facebook. So what was the need? Need was to do an unlimited scroll up. So this guy invented unlimited scroll up, and I can tell you I met him and he was not very happy because he invented. But the consequence of that is become a bad habit. Then nobody leaves Facebook because it's a constant feed of information. It doesn't end because the moment it ends, you will flip, and nobody's people are lazy to flip page. So if you look at it, there is always an consequence of a technology. Now we are just blaming AI because we don't know it, right? It's a black box. Not everybody's knows about it. But every time there's a leap in technology, people have actually found more jobs. This means we have to be humanly conscious. So what is the lesson learned from Facebook is whenever you invent, you have to be humanly cautious that this may not damage the society. So I'm working on something called AI biases, AI developers. So people should not be biased. So it's not about the army or the air force or the defense. Here it could be like autonomous car going and crossing a light, and if it sees, a child, it may stop. But if it sees the female, it may not stop. But what if that female is an older parent or older lady or older, gentleman? It may run over it. So these are the biases. The other biases are, oh, how the person looks like. So there is a startup here which actually does not disclose the resume to the recruiter until the recruiter has scans every qualification. They don't even reveal the first name and the last name of the candidate because you could be biased with the first name and last name. So they have understood that AI is important, but they also understood the consequence of AI could be biases because a recruiter can only search by putting star dot last name, and it will only give you those type of resumes, and you can be biased by saying, okay, I like this kind of people. So suddenly, this because of this problem, they have removed the names of the candidates from the resume until you really scan. If you really scan, if you really like it, then the name comes up. This means it is artificial intelligence still, right? But however, we use artificial intelligence to the benefit of the society. This means in this particular case of resume, you are actually being fair and transparent to every candidate. This means the recruiter has to go through every single resume and understand what resume he likes it. And once he says yes, then the name appears. In fact, a lot of women will not get hired. So what they do is they remove even the picture to that extent. So as you move along and you read the resume, then the picture will appear. So people are getting very smart and intelligent. They know AI can do a lot of good things, but they can also do bad things. So a lot of startups are doing reverse. They are protecting the bad things and they are making the companies. For example, I gave you the example of recruiter, right? So for every good thing, bad thing happens, right? There are good people in the world and the bad people in the world, right? Nobody hopes there are bad people, but there are bad people, right? So there's always a two side of the coin. We just have to be responsible as engineers like you not to do bad things. Okay, question number 9, please, or maybe 10.
10th one, sir, from Janavi. Sir,
Uh-huh.
how to reach out to the targeted group of people, or how to advertise or reach out to the people who are in need of our product or service?
Very good. That's a very good question.
Thank you,
So
sir.
it all starts with, yeah, that's a very good question. The reason I say very good, because it all starts with empathy. Customer need in a design thinking, maybe you can, reach out to me one on one. I can explain you, but for the time's sake, I'm going to tell you a simple answer. The needs are of a customer are basically you are doing something called empathy, which basically means that you are testing the needs to a niche set of community. For example, if you look at now, a lot of technologies being developed for blind people, right? So there were a lot of things where blind people have developed a lot of things. But a company which I can't name, but they thought about. So I'll give you an example. Let's say there are two people, one cannot speak and one cannot hear. How will two people talk? Think about it. You're looking at a person who is speaking, he or she can speak, but other person cannot hear. How will two people talk then? But they are in person, they can see each other. They can see each other, but they cannot communicate. So the way they have done is they understood there are certain set of people like this. So they have developed a technology where you can actually think through the skin, because skin is 3 millimeter in thickness. This means if I say pick the red ball without speaking, other person actually picks the red ball. Because even if I speak, even if a person speaks, B cannot hear, right? If B cannot hear, this means B cannot perform a function what A wants to do. However, through a brain sensing technology, now actually you can go through the skin, and from the skin it goes to the nerve, from nerve it goes to the brain, and brain tells, okay, he or she is asking me to pick the red ball. So it is a need, right? No, so the need comes with empathy. Otherwise you can isolate these two people and these two people will never grow, right? So in order to reach to a specific set of people, first we need to build a community. This means in this particular case, we will build a community of people who cannot hear, but they want to do something in life, right? For example, there was, I think, 3 years ago, there was an example where they said age of 30 or 40, women cannot function in Olympics, period, right? So in Los Angeles, there was a career coach, and they took 3 or 10 people and said, okay, would you like to go for Olympics? Because the age of the woman became a barrier, right? So what they did, they basically targeted those people who are obviously above 30 or 40. I don't remember the limit, right? So they approached those people by saying, if we train you, would you participate in Olympics? So there were certain women who were depressed or lonely or whatever, right? And this coach really trained them, and they got in cycling award, I think number 3, which is bronze award. So it is a need based, right? It's a challenge. Sometimes it could be a challenge, sometimes it could be a need, but it all starts with empathy. And the reason you will be successful because you are already thinking ahead of time what a customer needs. There's always a difference between a need and a want. So we have to be clear we are looking for what. So we always want to look for the need, and need happens through empathy. And there's a cycle in design thinking where basically says empathize with your potential customer. So do you have an example what you want to do, or it was a generic question?
Sir, it was a general question, sir.
Okay, okay.
Sir, you said something about brain sensing, right, sir?
Correct,
Yeah,
yes.
then how it will happen, sir? I didn't get that brain sensing technology.
So basically in a neuron, when two people are looking at each other, you have to have a set of neurons which say, see, so suddenly when you have a hot water, your hand automatically, you escape that, right? So
Yes,
it's a
sir.
fraction, right? So let's say you're watching a movie and suddenly hot water comes, you suddenly stop watching movie and suddenly you protect your hand, because on a central nervous system first becomes a protection of you, right? So suddenly you leave the movie and you take care of this, right? So if you're watching a movie in a theater and somebody spills some water or Pepsi, you will get distracted,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
Because you feel it, right? Nobody said I will throw Pepsi on you, right? They don't
Yes,
say
sir.
it, just happens, accident, right?
Yes,
This
sir.
means this means your body is constantly looking for protection. This means the neurons and the sensors around you See, it doesn't mean that you have to have a sensor like you have to wear an Apple iWatch to have a sensor. Of course, they are sensors,
Yes, sir.
but the body is our body thickness of the skin is only 3 millimeters. That's all it is. Whether an American or non-American, every skin is same thing. That's the amount of thickness. This means there are sensations and our alerts which are passing through a skin to give us an alert. So those
Yes, sir.
are obviously now we are advancing because of AI, and we're going to have chips, etc. So the idea is that how to enable the technology for people who cannot. Remember the example I gave you, the taxi driver in India cannot type
Yes, sir.
in any language, right? But he can talk. But when Google invented this, Google never thought about it. But Google reached to a point to say, oh, shoot, we can't reach billion people in India because we don't have a crazy idea. Because they were all doing search. They never thought about voice search, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
when you start a startup, you start with something small and then you evolve. See, your idea will never be the same idea after 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Most successful companies start with an idea, but they keep on changing the idea because idea will change. Are you the same person today when you were 2 years ago,
No,
Janvi?
sir. No,
Yeah,
sir.
you cannot be because you're constantly evolving. Whether you
Yes,
know or not, your brain is evolving, right? So I
yes,
will give you one simple conclusion that we have gone to moon, we are going to Mars, but we have not done work between 2 years. So what is between 2 years of you and me or Pradeep or anybody in your organization? Between 2 years. What is between 2 years? Between 2 years is a head. And head has billion neurons. You
okay.
can, you can Google how many neurons, but there's more than billion neurons. We do not even use 1% of the neurons.
Yes,
So now people are starting to say we are going to moons and Mars, but we have not worked in our head. That is why if you look at it, mental health startups are
yes,
booming.
yes, sir. Very true, sir.
So who will be the so you asked me a question, right? Who will be the mental health people? Everybody has is affected mental health, right?
Yes, sir.
In this pandemic, everybody is affected. This means if you create a solution now, everybody will resonate with you.
Oh,
Everybody will say, okay, let me try. So that might be a good idea to start with, right? So you say, how do I find my user, right?
yes,
To
sir.
find the user, you have to start something really big. Really
Yes,
big is everybody's depressed, obsessed, or whatever, right? Everybody's going to the mental trauma. So develop a mental app.
okay, sir.
Very
Like
simple.
according to the situation, we have to bring a new idea, right, sir?
Exactly. And
Yes, sir.
quickly test it. The idea is to quickly test. Not sit
Okay.
on the idea to say, okay, I will graduate, I will do it, or I will do it in 2025, or I will go to some saint in
Yes,
Himalayas and ask, when should I do this idea? You got an idea, write it down, talk to 10 people, never talk to your friends and family, talk to
yes, sir.
outside people. They'll give you a just talk them very briefly, take a quick survey and just try it 100 times. So what I do is over here, if you have an idea, we try with 100 customers. If 100 customers are able to say yes, then we fund that project. So I don't fund a
Okay.
project just because somebody idea is going to be great. I don't know myself if the idea will work or not, right? I'll give you another example. So there was a top investor 10
Yes,
years
sir.
ago who refused to invest in Airbnb. You know what Airbnb is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you don't know, you can Google it. So basically, he was willing to give his 10% of his company for $150,000. Okay, he said, "Okay, you
Yes,
give
sir.
me $150,000, I'll give you 10%." But he refused. In fact, seven people refused. If they would have not been refused today, they would have at least $150 billion in their bank account because they thought nobody will stay in strangers' home. That's it. Because their idea was to stay in a stranger's home. And they thought about, no, I will not give my bed to a stranger. I will not give my room to my stranger, right? Now, what is
Yes, sir.
common between Airbnb? What is common between Uber? They don't own a car. If you look at, they never own a car. Airbnb never owns a room, but they still control it. Dropbox takes care of your file and put in a cloud. You yourself can do it, right? You can go to
Yes,
Gmail
sir.
and but you will use Dropbox because it's a fancy way to work. Because you can have folders. You can look at, oh wow, it looks like the same as my Windows, right?
Yes,
But
sir.
if you look at Gmail, whatever the thing called, Gmail has something to upload, it sucks, right? I mean, say Gmail has the same feature,
Yes, sir.
right? But it sucks. A lot of companies, a lot of mistakes are not done just this. Google has done a lot of mistakes. Google will buy companies and shut them down because they think, oh shoot, that idea will not work. Like look at Flickr from Yahoo. They bought the idea, they shut it down. Right? So sometimes even if you have an idea, you make a product, some bigger company will buy you, and they'll say, "Oh, it was a mistake." But until you try something, it is difficult to, you know, approach. So at this particular time, your idea should be to reach millions and millions. You don't have to waste money. You don't have to do anything. You say, "Okay, I will make a mental health app, not a mental app, but mental health app." Maybe you can start doing meditation apps. Maybe you can do a guided meditation. Maybe you can localize in your country or your region or your city or your somewhere and just put it out. Hey, I know how to do meditation and this is meditation app and you this is how you download.
Yes, sir.
More questions? Happy to answer through LinkedIn or through email, whichever you prefer. Email
Uh,
response is slow. Okay, question number 11.
Hello,
sir,
sir.
yeah, anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir. Like,
Yeah, please give your name and
Please give me your name, your
uh,
background, like what year, what computer science or background.
can I ask it live or should I go through LinkedIn or email service?
You can ask live. I'm available. Please do ask.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I'm Chirag Shah and currently pursuing computer science second year, sir. My question is, we are in 2020 and and we have so much competition, sir. We have companies with a goodwill of 15 years, 20 years, 35 years. So amidst this situation, can a startup still be a monopoly?
Okay, so why monopoly? Why you need monopoly, please? You know the game or you just want to be monopolizing something?
No, sir, not like suppose Google, we have Google, sir, we have Google, Microsoft. They are like mountains, sir. We can climb over them, but we cannot move them. So I was asking like that. They are monopoly companies right now. So,
So your question is, so what is your question? Okay, that everybody knows they are mountain, but what is your question one more time?
so my question is, if like a startup can be a monopoly, or like it will just be around their competition. Like we have food services like Zomato or Swiggy or Uber Eats. A startup is similar to that, or something with unique business model.
So what differentiates you is going to be your customer service. You can have a similar model. You can copy a model, right? If you look at, there is no LinkedIn in China. There is no WhatsApp in China, right? But what they did was they got influenced by WhatsApp and they made WeChat. But what they did about the WeChat is they basically said, okay, people are looking for instant messaging. They thought instant messaging is foolish. But once they saw the growth of WhatsApp, they said, oh no. The moment Facebook bought $19 billion on WhatsApp, WeChat started very aggressively. But what they did was they added a feature called payment. Now in China, everything works through WeChat. Everything is a QR code. But Facebook is not there yet. I think Facebook is now coming up with something on business accounts. But what they did was they speed up the execution. So if you want to become a monopoly, you have to. I have told you earlier also, best ideas will be copied, right? But the most important is how you execute the idea, how you add a unique feature. Now, we talk about contactless payment in COVID. In China, they use WeChat for everything. It has been contactless since God knows 2 years ago, right? So they never touched the money. Money never get touched. But now I get pitched around, there's a payment systems in India where they're saying, oh, we will do a payment for rural India, right? Because they saw the influence of cell phone, right? They are now the cell phones have more, interactivity to a user who doesn't know how to use it. So now digital payments will work in India, right? So somebody who is going to make digital India in a payment structure will monopolize, yes. But you have to have a very strong execution team to do that and a very strong vision. A super strong vision can do it. So is something you're thinking in those lines or monopolizing or you don't have to compare yourself with Google, right? Comparing with a giant is no good. Then you cannot start anything. If you
Yes, sir.
keep thinking I will not become Google, yes, of course you will not become Google because Google has taken a leapfrog approach, right? They have taken YouTube, that's the number one search engine. Bing still is not number one search engine, right? So if you look at Samsung and iPhone was a leap. Now Samsung is 54% and iPhone is for 45%. Then they to kill the competition, they brought iPhone SE, which is under $300. So it's a constant competition, right? And they keep introducing to monopolizing, they keep introducing iWatch. Or I will give you a health tracker, right? So they keep influencing things to become monopolizing, but it becomes harder because then Samsung has their Samsung Health, correct? So now with more faster innovation, they are producing new phones under 9 months. Then suddenly all the carriers like here, they say, okay, you can buy the phone and pay for 3 years. So suddenly the business model and the iPhone becomes more influential because iPhone can only make iPhone, but they can't constantly make iPhone the way Samsung makes it. Samsung does it 9 months. They take 12 months. But then somebody has to buy it, right? After you make it, somebody has to buy it. Then they go to carriers and they say, oh, you're a phone carrier. I'll give you certain amount of work which you can actually make it easier to buy the phone because nobody can afford $1,000 phone, even in the US. So they started something called, oh, pay by month. But then you get stuck until you make the whole payment. Or if you break it, then you have to make the whole payment. If you break the if you break, it's not a contract, but it's like a monthly payment scheme. This means if you look at now, suddenly you have one phone for 3 years, which primarily means you are two generations behind of the current phone. So many people are still using S10, whereas there's a new phone 12 has come out, right? Because they say, oh yeah, there's one feature called AR, augmented reality. I can live without it. But if you're given a choice, they will jump on it, right? Because everybody wants to show the best phone or the latest phone, right? So those are the things. Does it help to answer?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you can monopolize to an extent, but then competition hits you up, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you go at Bing, you can get Bing Award. So basically, they keep collecting your data, right? I don't know if Chrome has something called Chrome Awards, but I'm definitely sure the Bing has something. The Bing has extension, so you can keep your points through mobile, tablet, or phone. So you can earn points and make some Skype credits free of cost. So it's very difficult to monopolize, but it is very if you look at Amazon, people think Amazon is a company which is basically doing e-servicing or whatever you call like delivery. It is not. If you look at the revenue from cloud computing comes more than the delivery service. They started with books, right? They wanted to monopolize the books, but suddenly they thought, oh shoot, books has no money because everything was going digital, right? People stopped reading the books, so they say, okay, let's do the Kindle. They monopolize the reading habits, but nobody wants to sit in sun and read the Kindle in black and white. Failed. The best thing about this company on Amazon, they fail very quickly. So they could not achieve, right? They could not achieve monopolizing the books industry, but they switched on to cloud. So they all start, people start with saying, no, I will be dominating, right? So I think the dominating is more important than anything. If you look at General Motors, they were 50 years ago, there were 50 companies, and General Motors monopolized the whole US auto industry. And when Tesla came, they said, no, nobody will charge the car. Nobody has time to charge the car. But what was the problem of charging a car? It was replacement of a battery. So they made a way to replace the battery in 60 seconds, which takes more time, or sorry, which takes less time as compared to a gas. Then now they're selling, oh, we are earth friendly and carbon neutral. So now there's a new thing. Oh, I'm a carbon neutral car. Oh, you suck because you burn gas and you're carbon monoxide, whatever drama, CO2 thing in the environment. So now you become cautious. So suddenly a company which was General Motors, who are monopolizing auto industry, has to shift gears, right? Similarly, if you look at Tag Heuer and all those watches, you used to have a watch in a wristwatch and at least have for 5 years. Suddenly, when the iWatch came, people say, "Oh no, I can change the screen 500 times." So Samsung has a new watch. Then Tag Heuer came with a digital watch. So they have to move. So Tag Heuer was like, used to have watch like $20,000 in your hand. People, wow, what a beautiful watch. Now, if you wear, they think you are wearing a metal. What this metal is crazy, right? Because you're wearing a $20,000 metal, nobody cares about it because there's no style. It's monotonous. It's the same thing looking at the same watch over and over again. Nobody wants to watch it. People have fists, people change the colors, people change the mask, people change. So whoever was monopolizing has to shift. That's the only way they can survive. So Tag Heuer, all these companies have to move to digital watches. Does it help you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, Sir, we'll wrap up this session.
Okay.
And now I would like to call Geeta Madam to present vote of thanks.
Okay, so I would actually say to all those 10 participants, please email me their contact information. If they are
Uh,
shy or if they don't have LinkedIn, I don't want any barrier. So there are 10 participants who have actually asked questions. And some
we'll,
of
we'll
the,
I'll
yeah,
share your email ID and LinkedIn
LinkedIn. Okay.
so that they
So
can
I
get
would,
back to you.
so I would love to be in touch with those 10 candidates or, whoever those second or third year. I would love to keep in touch and 100% like to contribute. So I want to keep my promise. My promise was the top 10 candidates will get 30 minutes of one-on-one mentorship. Since you have the names and it's recorded, so you please help me to connect with them. And
Yes, sir.
okay, I want to keep my promise, so it is maintained. Okay, so we welcome Geeta
Yeah,
back.
I'll hand over the mic, sir.
Yeah, early good morning, Vince Kohli, sir.
Yeah,
Good
no
evening,
problem. Good
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 evening,
morning.
good evening, students. Gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. An ignited mind is the most powerful weapon on the earth, above the earth, and under the earth. And this is got through education. Education is the most profitable investment for the near future. On behalf of KLE IT, I, Geeta Bremgowder, deem it a great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks. So I'd like to thank resource person Vince Coiley sir of today's webinar, Global Resilience, Scaling the Innovation Economy. Thank you very much, sir, for spending your valuable time with us in spite of your busy schedule. We assure you that today's session will become lifelong learning for all the students. And I thank you very much, sir, and even thank you very much for providing and enlightening our students with our precious knowledge and valuable knowledge. Thank you, sir. And I am handing over to Pradeep, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta, and thank you for bringing me to your institute. And I really like your encouragement. You're really doing a very fantastic job, I would say. Bringing in entrepreneurship to your computer science students, and these people are at the right stage at right time. So encourage them to fail. That's all I can tell you. Encourage them to make you curious, right? And ask them questions and let them ask you questions. These are the nation builders, and hopefully with this today's webinar they can shape their ideas and encourage them to
Yes,
fail
yes,
fast,
yes.
fail very fast, not no, not taking 1 year, but
So
fail
kind of
fast.
you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you
Yes,
very much
so
for your
kind of you, sir. We never expected that you will be coming with a surprise to offer internships for our students. That's so kind of you, sir. Definitely, we'll look forward and we'll work together in shaping the students' career and bringing some good things to the society.
Sure.
Once again, sir, from entire KLIT fraternity, I thank you for your valuable time, for your suggestions, all the way you for if I like your patience with so cool and calm you maintained right from beginning till the end. Thank you so much for all the very knowledge and all the enlightenment to all the students. I thank
You're
you
very
one.
welcome.
I thank you for your times. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to once again thank your principal, Dr. uh, Baswaraj, Dean,
name.
Dr. Sharad, HOD, Dr. Swami, and obviously Pradeep and Geeta. You guys are amazing. And I would highly encourage you to please make some kind of a document or Excel sheet of these 10 people. And we really track their success for the next couple of years. We can make a shared doc with their contact information if possible. But I will leave the
Ye-
choice to you. I'm always available
Yes,
for these 10, extremely. The questions were really good. I was really thrilled. They are asking real time questions, like field questions. They're not
yes,
talking they're not talking E is MC square. They're not talking about a formula. They're talking about. So I feel that these people have something in mind. So we should really be excited to support them. So once again, from Silicon Valley, signing off.
sir.
And
Thank you
thank
so
you
much.
once again. Okay. Bye for now.
Thank you, one and all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
so much, sir.
Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you from all the on behalf of KLIT Department of CSE. Thank you, one and all, for your valuable time. Have a pleasant day. Good day.
Bye now.
Thank you,
Bye
sir.
bye.
Bye,
Thank
bye, bye,
you.
sir. Bye, sir. Thank you, thank you.